What's going on, Workforce? Brian here, and in today's video we're talking about Savage Plus Dungeons and Endgame Leves. Two general concepts that I think would add a lot of replay value and not a lot of development time. But I would love to know your thoughts on this as well, so let's discuss. So, what is the Savage Plus Dungeon system? Well, this is an idea that's really stemmed off of watching Chris play World of Warcraft, in which they have what they call the Mythic Plus system, in which that they take all these dungeons, scale them up, and as you clear the dungeon, you can level it up essentially and then have it at a higher difficulty level. And this can come from increased number of enemies, increased level of the enemies. Imagine if you were running a dungeon where the enemies were level 80 or 90, as well as increased modifiers that as the system progresses, they're going to throw in various different challenges, right? Now, all of those systems at their core already exist in the world of Final Fantasy XIV, if you think Palace of the Dead and Heaven on High. And so basically my suggestion here is to almost like a deck of cards, take these systems that exist within the world of Final Fantasy XIV and start to blend them into the Savage Plus system. You can even see ideas like within Eureka, within how they take those various elementals and the elemental wheel. Like, that is just an extreme suggestion to this content. But before we really dive into it, the real core critical solution to any of our content problems is rewards. How do you make this system reward players in a meaningful way? And while the idea of rewards in the core system that Final Fantasy XIV currently incorporates is a greater conversation for probably another video, don't feel like you can't weigh in on it, because right now I would say that 14 has to get out of its solely gear progression reward system and just purely, gear progression system. They need to offer more avenues and more alternatives, and that's beyond gear, and that's character progression and all kinds of various things they could do to incorporate. But like I said, it's a bigger conversation for another video, so I don't want to detract from it, but essentially the answer to any content that we have that we're not currently doing is incentive. So the incentive of doing the Savage Plus system is offering a chance to really challenge yourself as a 4-man group. Also, I would say rewards like mounts, minions, titles. I'd like to see more progression in that area. But from just like a general core concept, imagine if every week there was a set of 5 dungeons that were picked, whether at random or whatever on a schedule, that they could even foretell, like, hey guys, next week we're going back to, the Binding Coil of Bahamut, and that's going to be this raid tier, and every time you can clear it, it levels up. And at a minimum, it's always scaled to the base level current max. At the time of this video, that's 70, assuming that 5.0 is 80, then the system in itself levels itself up, and you participated at that end game, style system. So it's at the base level, level 1 of whatever dungeon. It can be a leveling dungeon, even like a level 20 dungeon that we don't have any reason to go to. All of a sudden, the enemies are at level 80, and you don't really have to introduce too many mechanics. And I know some people will take issue with that, and that's where I think modifiers end up replacing additional mechanics. Now, they could always go in and take mechanics from other bosses and just throw them random onto different enemies and to different bosses in the game. But what I'm looking at doing, what I'm suggesting in this case, is a system that does not require a lot of development further on. Basically taking all the development work and effort they've already made and bringing them together. We've got 65 plus dungeons. We're going to keep getting more dungeons, but there's no reason to go and run those dungeons ever again. And so they kind of out of sight, out of mind. And unless you happen to get lucky and run it in a roulette, sometimes it's like, wait, what was this place? And they are beautifully made dungeons. And what I'm trying to get to, I guess at the core root of it, is how can we allow the developers to make us new content? Because everybody wants new content, while at the same time keeping current content and existing content and old content fresh in a way that doesn't require a huge amount of development time. And that's exactly what I think the Savage Plus system of dungeons would be. It adds in, a various weekly kind of rotation. It adds in the modifiers from Heaven on High, and perhaps they could even add in any more, which from itself, then you as a player and you as a team of 4 can get Savage content for the dungeons, the wide variety of dungeons that already exist, without having to sit here and hit some arbitrary level. Maybe you can only reach level 3 in a given week. Maybe you can only reach level 7. You add in leaderboards and you add in various things to kind of help make things fun and exciting. to challenge yourself if you wish. Maybe you put level 3 on farm. Because level 4 is too difficult, they add in too many modifiers. It adds in too much challenge for your team, but you can clear 3 with a challenge, but then again, it's always incentivizing those rewards, and the rewards are key. So I look at this as just that we have a wide variety of content. We have a wide variety of dungeons. We have a wide variety of raids, and a way that those can scale up automatically, at the same time. We have the hard mode dungeons, which is a new dungeon set on a palette within the existing world. And what we're asking for is the scalability for the players to be able to kind of push through and have the system scale and push us to the point where we can no longer win. And that's how I view Savage Plus. But I'd love to know your thoughts. Like, is this a system that sounds interesting, or would you be concerned this would take away from the developing new content like new trials and new raids? One person that I did get into conversation with about on the forums of this, and the link to that post is in the description if you want to go add your feedback or upvote the idea, and maybe we can at least get this in front of the developers, attention, from our perspective. But he was concerned, like, should this then delay 5.0? What if 5.0 came out in 2019 or 2020 because of Savage Plus? And while I think that is a bit, eccentric to say that this kind of system would take that long and delay new content and new story, if it was going to delay, but all of a sudden, all the content and story and stuff that we're sitting on right now becomes relevant again, that's in and of itself, I think, would be something very interesting to me. But that is just my opinion. Now, obviously, a 2020 delay, that's a 1 year delay from obviously the targeted date of 2019 for 5.0. So there is obviously going to be development ideas and structure, but what I'm looking at is how can we take systems that already exist and mesh them together within the world of 14 to make new and fresh content, and I think this is one of them. Okay, so let's talk about Endgame Leves. Leves are a system that has really just kind of almost evolved into crafting and gathering, and we haven't even seen any battle leaves within the Stormblood area. So what is a leave if you have not been using them or not even aware of them? If you're like me, you're sitting on 100 leave allowances at any given time. Now, a leave is just that, a repeatable quest, a instanced area within the open world. So you go kick off a leave, it's going to spawn some monsters and some objectives, and that's it. People can see it, but they can't steal your enemy. So it kind of says, this is my little area and zone, here are my enemies, I'm going to go execute it. Leaves were a big part of 1.0, and it was really exciting to see that Yoshi P said that Leaves are no longer the sole summit of what the game is going to entail. That's important, and I'm not arguing that they should come back. What I am making the case for is that we have a system that's already gated, meaning you can get up to 100 leave allowances, and then they don't go up anymore from there. And then it's also time gated, though you only get so many allowances throughout the course of a day. So there is a natural gating, which means that they can actually lock interesting rewards behind this system. And again, like we said at the top of the video, rewards are the difference maker. The reason to do this kind of content is because there are rewards. So what an endgame leave is, in my opinion. We already talked about the Savage Plus system, but we already talked about modifiers. We already talked about kind of wave-based modes in which that you have Heaven on High. I think that should be applied to the leave. The leave being an open world content people can watch and witness. You can run it with any number of people, up to even an alliance, but I think for the most part, running this as kind of a 1 to 8 man and having the content difficulty scale based off of who you are would be rather fascinating. But what I want to see in this case is kind of the horde mode of Final Fantasy, where you go until you can go no more. You go until you fail, and then like every 10 levels of it, you get the option to say, yeah, I'm done, or you can attempt to attack the next level, in which things that get more intense, more random, more modifiers, more enemies, and all of this can exist. Now, I think because of the nature of it is that the systems already exist. We already have a wealth of enemy types. We already have a wealth of boss types. The idea that comes to mind is thinking that imagine getting to a level so high that all of a sudden you're running against raid style bosses, and it's going to come and they're going to be existing in the open world where people can watch and witness this at the same time. And then you can, again, kick this off in different areas so that the terrain could matter. It can help with whatever type of of leave, whether you're trying to kind of, clear waves in a certain amount of time, if you're trying to defend certain points or things that are of value to you in this world. There are so many interesting things they can do. And then I think, again, like from a rewards perspective, it's gated behind the already allowance system that's in place. So you could say, I want to risk whether they want to make it 50 or 100, some kind of large value, so that this isn't something that you're able to take part in every day. The system already has a leave linking system, so that if we're running this together and you have the leave, all of a sudden you can take part in the bonuses, to experience the bonuses to whatever the drops rates are, the bonuses to the tomes and things of that nature, so that you're not necessarily left out. And then if you don't have the leave, you can still participate in it with friends at a reduced, obviously, volume of the rewards and eligibility. Imagine not being able to open the treasure coffers to be eligible for the drops, but you still get tomes, you still get gil, you still get seals, or whatever they want, whatever 1,000 currencies they want to bestow upon us gracefully. That is where I see this. That's where, and the reason I think this would be interesting is I've long wanted kind of that horde mode style of the game that doesn't take place in an instant zone, something that you can participate in, you can actively do, while at the same time waiting for queue for PvP. Perhaps it's a long queue system, so there's all kinds of, I guess, different values that this could can undertake, and it's at the same time also instance content. So while you're running it, outside members cannot come and start fighting the boss. You're not going to get server-wide people trying to fight Alexander, and then the system is completely unbalanced. It would be ranging from 1 to 8 people, maybe making it soloable for the first 30 levels, and then after that you're going to really struggle and have a challenge, and thus you can say, hey, we want to take friends and we want to try to get to as far as we can go. And again, like I said, with anything else, add leaderboards, add some kind of scoring system, allow yourself to challenge yourself to see if you can't get better. But I guess the core root of all of these topics is it's about the rewards. And so that might be another video that I'm going to have to put out here in a little bit. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts. If you like these ideas or more, please make sure you click the link in the description. Go and upvote this on the official forums. I'd love to see, to get some traction, to get some feedback from the developers as it relates to the core system itself. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below as well. Leaves in themselves, I know, tend to kind of, you kind of fall one way or the other. Either you love the idea or you just want to see them get rid of the leaves altogether. And I don't blame you either way, but I'd love to know your thoughts. For Work To Game, my name's Brian. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Hey everybody, Brian and Chuck here for Work To Game. Chuck wants to tell you that you should totally subscribe to the channel, and that you should totally hit that like button. Oh, and then we also got t-shirts on sale for some reason. That's a little bit mean, Chuck. I'm not crazy.